My name is James Wayne, and I'm actually the head of product specialists here at Exclaimer. And today I'm going to be leading you through an introduction to Exclaimer Cloud. And we've got quite a busy agenda today. I'm going to try and cover quite a lot of detail, really give you a great introduction to what our Exclaimer Cloud solution can accomplish. We're going to take the time to look at the real value of that solution, the problem that it solves, the issues, the opportunities as well that can, in fact, be realized before turning our attention to the integrations that make all of this possible. Once we've done that, I'd like to discuss very briefly the kind of security and support that you can see alongside this solution. And finally, dive into the portal itself and give you a real-time hands-on experience with what the portal can accomplish, what it's like to use day to day. So let's get started. And we'll start with that all-important value. What is the problem that Exclaimer Cloud resolves? Well, Exclaimer Cloud is a solution that addresses the issue of email signature conformity not being where you need it to be. This might be a familiar problem to you. You might see different variations of your email signature out there in the wild. Staff using signatures of their own designs, or unfortunately using the designs that you want them to, but with slight differences due to the ways they've been implemented. Of course, when we do have a lack of conformity, we're not truly reaching the value of the email signature. We're not presenting branding, the right branding, the uniform branding on all corporate emails. And it's probably then preventing us to building the trust and engagement with that brand we ultimately want to do. It's also then true that we're not able to utilize the email signature as the communications opportunity that it represents. If we employ email signatures as a communications channel, there are actually a number of things that we can do with it. We can really use content within the email signature to improve some pretty crucial core metrics. Things like our sales, our engagement, our satisfaction scores. We can actually improve those with content built into our email signatures. And finally, and I think this is definitely not worth forgetting, if we're not making sure our email signatures comply, well, we're risking certain things where compliance is concerned. Certainly, that could pose our organization some threats later on. So an email signature policy is a great idea to really capitalize on what you can do with an email signature. But it's also true, unfortunately, that conceiving that policy and then enforcing it are two very different things. We can very easily come up with all of the many things we want to do with our email signatures, but how we go about then getting those signatures into place is really where a solution like Exclaimer Cloud can step in. Because enforcing a policy can be very much a hassle otherwise. We see organizations trying to enforce a signature policy really in one of two ways traditionally. Either they'll use mail flow rules, transport rules in the Exchange Online service to try and put the signatures into place for users, apply them during mail routing, or else they'll use the Outlook client and the native settings there to do similar. Both have issues concerning consistency and issues when it comes to actually getting those signatures comfortably in place. And I think some that I'd really like to draw your attention to here concern the fact that we're not able to hand over control to other parts of the business like marketing in an easy fashion in really either case, nor are we really going to reach the level of conformity consistency here that we might well expect to, covering all emails. Neither method is going to result in true consistency everywhere. Well, Exclaimer Cloud addresses these obstacles. Certainly where we see the immediate value being is resolving some of these issues from day one. Consistency-wise, we're going to guarantee that branding and signature content always conform. We're also going to do this across all devices and all email clients, and that includes mobiles or cell phones. We make this far more comfortable than it really would ever be otherwise. Anyone can truly manage email signatures when Exclaimer Cloud is used, and it greatly reduces the overhead on the IT department. It offers an opportunity to pass over, in fact, control of signature management to other departments. And from a compliance point of view, we do ensure that there is no risk of non-compliance because those signatures are in place all of the time and conforming. That really removes the risk that they would otherwise these emails pose your organization. But it is also true that we do see there being some opportunities you can realize further down the line. Once email signatures are controlled, with our tool, you can really easily turn email signatures into a new communications channel for your business. It can really give your marketing efforts an extra boost. And once set up, Exclaimer Cloud is extremely easy to manage. IT avoids the tedium of signature change requests, all of these requests for updates to signatures. You can actually just give securable access to other people within the business with robust permission levels that make sure they're only able to do the things you want them to. So let's take a look at some of the technology that makes this all work. And we're going to start here with one of the most important integrations of all, and that is the integration with Azure Active Directory. We integrate with Azure Active Directory in a really nice, clean, easy way with use of Graph. We simply set up the necessary permissions within your Azure Active Directory space. We use an enterprise application to do this, in fact. And with those permissions granted, we can use Graph to reach the user objects. When we can do this, we know who your users are, what groups they belong to, and most importantly of all, we know these contact detail, contact information items about them, which we'll use to populate signatures with and apply signatures to. It's not just these standard details we can make use of, however. It's also true that we can reach custom attributes and extra attributes, and we can do so in one of two ways. You can set up AD Connect if you're able to levy a local Active Directory in addition, or you can just simply go into Exchange Online and reach the custom attributes there. With our integration with Azure Active Directory set up, we simply synchronize these details twice a day automatically, but it is also possible for you to trigger these synchronizations yourselves as a manual process. So with that explained, let's now turn our attention to the deployment methods, how signatures actually end up on the emails that are sent. With Exclaimer Cloud, there are two different styles of approach that are available to you. And many customers do actually use both in tandem. You'll have the opportunity to choose which deployment methods you look to set up when you become a user. Let's first turn our attention to that client-side deployment. Our aim with this deployment method is simply to deliver email signatures to the users themselves. What this involves is email signatures being assigned to users, and it is the process of Exclaimer Cloud then to send those assigned signatures to the relevant users by means of a deployment mechanism. Those users are actually receiving those email signatures within the email client they use to compose messages. And in that way, they're going to receive a very traditional end user experience. Truly, client-side is an attempt to give an experience to the end user that they are already familiar with. But there are some things to be aware of. For a start, this process is one that can only take place when we're using our local Outlook client, Outlook for Web, or Apple Mail. Certainly, mobile phones and cell phones are not covered by this process. But other than that, the experience should be very familiar. You can see the signature as you compose. You can select different signatures, and default signatures for both new messages and for forwards and replies are very much possible. Now, that deployment mechanism that makes this possible differs depending on the Outlook client that you use. If you use the click to run Outlook that comes as part of the Microsoft 365 license, then you could use an add-in. The same is true if you're using Outlook 2019 or you're using Outlook for Web. And that add-in, of course, can be deployed to users simply using the admin portal of Microsoft 365. If, however, you're using an older version of Outlook, 2016 or before, or you're using a Mac computer, we still can deploy signatures to Outlook, but we'll use an agent that must be installed on the machine to do this. And whilst that can be deployed by group policy or Intune, it is also available for users to install themselves. So turning our attention over to the other deployment method, where client-side offers a very traditional experience, but does so in a limited scope of places, server-side is far more broad, but it is quite different in the experience it offers. Here, email signatures are still designed within the Exclaimer Cloud portal, still assigned to users, but they're not sent to the user. The user sends emails as they traditionally would on the devices that they choose to, and that email is sent without a signature at that stage to Exchange Online, and then it connects through to our smart host. That is where signature application takes place. We apply the signature to that email and making sure to obey all of the reply separators that are in place, adding that signature in the correct spot on the email below the most recent message sent. And with that done, and it takes only 3 to 5 seconds for it to occur, we would return the email back to Exchange Online so that it may be sent onwards by Microsoft 365, by your subscription and Exchange Online to the recipient. That's not something our solution would be responsible for. It does also allow, therefore, you to use other gateway services like Mimecast, Proofpoint, Barracuda, and the like. So here, we are very much changing the end user experience, but at the benefit of then being able to reach a greater coverage. So this server level process can apply signatures to all emails, and it does then mean users cannot see the signature during composition, but it's important to note that with an additional feature, a copy can be retained in the sent items folder that shows the signature that was added to it. You can still set default signatures, and in addition, actually you can set up recipient-based behavior here and have different signatures applied based on the recipient of the message. And you can still select signatures too, although this uses a feature called subject line triggers. Most of our customers that we encounter will actually decide, in our experience, to use both of the deployment methods together. That way, they gain the benefit of both deployment methods. whereas client-side can be used, a traditional experience is realized. Users can interact with signatures as they traditionally would. But server-side is still there, and it's running in the mail route and ensuring that the email signature, the corporate email signature, is always on an email. And that includes cell phones and tablets and those types of devices. What's good here is that through deduplication, you will only ever have one email signature applied to any sent email. Server-side will only add an email signature when it is necessary to do so. So I want to turn our attention just very briefly to security and support, and start with the support framework that surrounds our customers when they use this solution. We really have three areas of support, three teams. We have our product specialist team who help at the initial stages of use, help in demonstrations, help on board, help train. And then we have the larger support team that are based both in the UK and the US. They are a team that offer 24/5 support. And finally, we have our customer success team, who actually many customers do not interact with directly, but they're always there providing collateral assets to ensure customers do get return on investment. And if we turn our attention back to the technology just for a second, we can also make some definitive claims about how we ensure the solution remains reliable, secure, and private too. In terms of reliability, we can guarantee 99.9% uptime. We do this largely by how the solution is hosted. We host within Azure. So it is the Microsoft infrastructure we are using. And we've got data centers around the world split into availability zones. You would be hosted within one availability zone, and that means not only have you got the active partnership of data centers, you do as well have the guarantee of data sovereignty. In terms of security, we keep things nice and compliant with industry standards here. 256-bit encryption of all data, both at rest and in transit, using a unique SSL certificate for each customer. And finally, regarding privacy, our solution and we as a company are ISO certified. That is an ISO certification we are audited to remain compliant for, and checks are made to ensure that we keep all data private. And I think something to be crucially aware of is that we are not an MTA. We're not actually ever owning your emails. Connection is always kept between Exclaimer and Exchange Online as we process an email. We guarantee that the email can be sent back to you. And we're treating emails when they're treated in our solution in the RAM space. So we never create a permanent copy of any email. So let's now turn our attention to the Exclaimer Cloud Portal that, once all of the setup is done, is actually used to manage signatures day to day. I'm now within my web browser, and I'm here with the Exclaimer Cloud Portal sign-in page. To sign in, I am going to click Sign in with Microsoft. I'm actually going to use single sign-on to reach my account. Here, signing in as an admin account of my Exclaimer Cloud subscription. I've got this demo environment here. That's what we're going to be using to explore today. And just before I launch into it, I also just want to quickly show how we've got a user management area. This is where we can add in further users within the business and give them access to the subscription themselves. That way, they're going to be able to manage signatures alongside us in the areas we want them to. And I'll show you what I mean by that in just a moment. So now that I've signed in, I'm here at the home screen of the portal, and I am going to access my signatures. And what you'll immediately note here where my signatures are stored is I have created subfolders with this folder button here that I can house my signatures within, separate out my signatures, in this example, by department, but you could do this for all manner of items. You could do different folders for different territories or different brands. What this does is it creates a really nice structure, but it also allows me to give bespoke access to specific folders. If I move into the marketing team signature folder, for example, open this one here, you'll note that I've got this security tab, and it's here where I can give specific editor accounts access to specific folders. So when I add in random user to the folder security for the marketing team, I'm making sure they can access this folder and the signatures contained where I might not give them access elsewhere. I'm also able to qualify the folder for specific people too. Here I've said both members of a marketing Active Directory group and an individual as well. But let's move back to the signatures and take a look at what I've got. Well, I've got a Christmas signature, a seasonal signature in my list. I've got a main signature too. I've got a reply signature that I'm going to be looking to use beyond this, and an internal signature finally. And these are some of the most common use cases we encounter, and they're all possible with Exclaimer Cloud. If we look at a signature, let's take this main signature and manage that. We assign signatures using sender rules with this tab here. And we can just apply a signature to everyone in the business. We can use groups. So here we've got an Active Directory group for the marketing team, and we've said everyone that belongs to that group gets the signature. We can supply sender names or email addresses and add them one by one as well. And finally, and this is my favorite way of managing signatures personally, we can build out queries. So here, I know I want this to affect the Exclaimer Miami marketing team, and I've set up conditions here that result in only those users getting the signature assigned. As well as selecting senders, we can set up exceptions if we need to remove people from the list after we've added groups. And then we can just go ahead and set up our advanced rules and enable the signature. Our advanced rules really establish reply behavior in server-side and those subject line triggers I previously discussed. It's in enable that we get to choose which deployment methods we are using. And if we elect to use client-side, we are able to set up those reply behaviors in Outlook. Now, these are just some of the settings, the more mandatory ones. If I come out of this signature and go back to my previous signatures in the marketing folder, I'm going to actually open up this Christmas signature, manage this one, to show you how we can set a date and time range. Here, I've set up a start date of the beginning of December and an end date of the beginning of January. So this signature only runs for the Christmas period. And moving back to that marketing folder one more time, I want to show you how with this internal signature, I can set up recipient-based rules that mean that only a certain type of recipient gets the email signature. Now, the last thing I want to show you in the portal is how design work occurs. I'm going to edit my main signature here to show you the designer tool. In the designer tool, you'll always have your canvas in the middle, the signature design you're working on. a preview of that signature below. And you'll have all of the components you can add to the signature here on the left-hand side. And it's all drag and drop. So if I wanted to replace this banner, say, I can just drag that out of the design and drag in a new banner to take its place, uploading another image if required. Whenever I add a component, be it an image like I have there, perhaps text or fields, perhaps from Active Directory, surveys, awards, regardless of the content, I can customize it further, adding hyperlinks where necessary and changing the font of any text. And that includes using custom fonts as well. This designer is designed really to be as intuitive as it possibly could be. It's really easy, in fact, for new users to get acquainted with the process of designing signatures and create some really effective designs with a variety of content included within. Once we're done, we save our changes, and that'll take us back to our list of signatures where we can begin to deploy signatures as I described. So that, everyone, is a bit of a demonstration of the portal experience. And that is also the end of today's presentation. All it is left for me to say is thank you so much for joining us on this session. But from me, for today, goodbye for now.